Welcome back to Frame by Frame, building lots of Gunpla frame by frame. Today's build is the high-grade GAT-X105 E-EX01 Aile Strike Gundam from Gundamseed. What a mouthful that is. This was my first high-grade, and in turn my first 1/144 kit. This one comes in technically 8 runner sheets, so I knew this was going to be a much shorter build. Also very little in the way of sticker decals, definitely going to get the G markers on this one. With high grades being the standard kits for Gunpla, it didn't have me worried for the build itself, but as the build went I felt it was harder than I expected, and that is purely based on the size. It being a smaller build made it a bit more fiddly, and if you're like me and sort of chunky with big fingers, it was pretty hard to put certain bits together. But as with any model kit, we had to get our tools together, and right off the bat I was not a fan of the layout / setup for the instruction booklet. The booklet here likely relies on the quicker build and less runner sheets, so not worry too much as it goes with the step by step. But to compare to the Gundam Sandrock's booklet, which outlines which part you were working on and which runners you needed, this build, it felt a bit more all at once, if that makes sense. Thankfully, it seemed to keep the formula of torso, head, arms, legs, waist, and backpack, but the flow here wasn't as nice. But the build was a fairly standard affair, apart from the fiddly bits like I mentioned before. As I was building, I was really focused on those nubs this time as to make this build smoother, but as I was building, I was surprised to see how small this Gunpla really was. But at the same time, I noticed how it was coming together. The articulation was beautiful, meaning that the poses for this one were going to be a lot of fun. And like before, the parts of the Gunpla seem to continue the trend of the arms and legs being the most fun to put together, particularly with the satisfaction you get seeing the parts come together and then seeing their flexibility. I also wanted to thank everyone for the response to the first video like this. It seems like a lot of people really liked this, but I did want to ask everyone who sees this that is a Gunpla or model kit builder, what is your least favourite builds that you've ever put together? Post your responses in the comments. I want to know which ones might be worth avoiding. With the final assembly done, I noticed immediately how easy this one was to pose, and getting the weapons on him was the next priority. But not only that, we had to get the booster pack ready to get him into the air, and there's no better way to get him into the air than the action base form. I was really happy with this one in the end. Simplistic for sure, but that's not a bad thing. A decent Gunpla on the cheap, and I wasn't disappointed. Unlike the Sandrock Gundam that we built in the first video, though that was a master grade, I'd say that would be perfect as an entry grade level or your very first master grade due to its simplistic nature, whereas this one, definitely not. It being a master grade and 1/144, a lot smaller, the fiddly bits were a bit too difficult for someone trying Gundam for the first time. Though it's on the cheap side, it would be a bit harder for entry grade level. I think it's better to start with a bigger model kit, whether it's Gunpla or not, just because that way it's easier. With him done and posed, I wonder, what kit would you like me to build next?